I'm here. I'm actually here with Rob this time.
I know, not all by myself.
Right? So I'm Megan with Rocky Mountain Sewing and Vacuum, and this is Rob Richards, owner
of Rocky Mountain Sewing and Vacuum here in Colorado. That was energetic.
Yeah,
I liked it.
I like it. All right. So today we're on Sewing Week.
Sewing Week.
Yeah.
Week 5.
Woohoo! So today we're talking about one of the coolest sewing only machines, the Pfaff Quilt Expression 720.
Yes, and this is, and you can't share this with anybody out there, but this is really one of my 2 favorite sewing only machines that we carry. And if you don't know our company, we carry pretty much every brand of sewing machine out there. And this machine just checks so many boxes for people that want a sewing only machine. You know, maybe they're not into embroidery or whatever. It's an amazing machine.
Oh, absolutely. And so today we have Meredith from Pfaff. She's a Pfaff educator that's joining us to talk to us all about it. So we'll let Meredith take it away for now.
Go, Meredith.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Meredith, one of the Pfaff educators, and I am very excited that Rocky Mountain Sewing and Vac has invited me today to go through all of the great things about the Pfaff Quilt Expression 720. It is one of my favorite just sewing machines. It doesn't do embroidery, just sewing machines to take with me to classes, to just do my everyday basic projects on. It's just a great overall sewing machine. So I'm going to go through some of my favorite features of it and show you a couple of the amazing stitches that it has that are exclusive to the machine and things like that. So let's get going. So let's go over and we're going to look at the machine and I'm going to show you some of the features of it. So first off, you're going to see, let me back up just a little bit here. You're going to see all of this space that you have within here. My fingers are not even touching the needle to the head of the machine over here. So you're going to get nearly 10 inches of sewing space to get those bigger quilts under here, to get a bigger project you're working on, bags, all types of things. You've got all of this space within here to sew within. It does have the IDT, so you have that option to engage that. And what the IDT is when you're sewing, it's basically feed dogs up top and, or it's basically like having a built-in walking foot. So you have your feed dogs on the bottom and then your walking foot, the IDT on top, and it's going to sandwich and move your fabric evenly. So those thicker fabrics, quilts that you're doing, if you're doing things with minky or satin, it's going to evenly feed those fabrics and move them so that they're not all going to bunch together. So that's one of my top favorite features of this machine. So that's going to be right under here, and you can engage that or disengage that as well, depending on what type of stitch you have. It does have a needle threader as well. So you have that option to thread the needle versus doing I like to call it the lick and stick method. We can use our needle threader right here to easily thread our machine. And there's our little loop right back there. So now my machine's threaded. Down here at the bobbin case, it has a clear opening bobbin case so that you can see when the bobbin is getting low, but the machine will let you know when the bobbin is getting low as well. It has a stitch plate sensor also. So if you do quilting and you want to use a single hole stitch plate, it recognizes that you have that single hole stitch plate on. So if you have been quilting and you turn your machine off and when you come back, you start sewing and you go to do a zigzag, your machine's not going to let you. It's going to say, hey, you can't do that. What happens is you'll end up breaking a needle because it doesn't have that space for the needle to go back down. So that's another great feature that it has. That's going to be everything down here really. And then up top, you're going to see a 3.5-inch color touchscreen up here. You're going to have the option for your presser foot to go up and down or using your foot pedal. When you tap your foot pedal, the presser foot will automatically go down. So let me show you what that looks like. So right here, I'm just going to go ahead and tap my foot pedal and my presser foot's going to automatically go down. You're going to notice also we have this needle up and down button. So I have that engaged. So if I were to start sewing over here, just using my foot pedal and I start sewing, I'm doing just a basic straight stitch and I stop, my needle's going to stop in the down position. And what else happens is the presser foot raises up just a little bit so that I can make those right angle turns without losing my spot, just like that. So you can disengage that as well if you don't want to stop with your needle in the down position. And that's right here. You have a scissors, which again, I feel like every machine needs to have scissors on it. So if we come back over here, I'm going to touch my scissor button now. It's going to cut my thread and then it's going to raise my foot pedal or my presser foot up. So I don't have to raise it back up or anything like that. and I can pull my fabric out and it's cut it on the back and the front. You also have a start-stop option. So when you're doing those decorative stitches that may go a little bit longer, or if you have a phrase or anything like that that you have, you can use that start and stop button as well versus using your foot pedal. You have a reverse button, which is down here. And let's come back up here. So on the screen, you're going to see all this little icon right here, the little lines. If we touch that icon, that's going to bring us to all of our stitches. And there are 428 stitches on this machine. They're broken up into different categories. You have utility stitches, quilt stitches, needle art stitches, satin stitches, decorative stitches. And within all of these categories, you're going to see even more options below that. So it breaks them up even more. You're going to see miscellaneous stitches. So, animal stitches, just fun, different things. There are 4 fonts on this machine. They're not embroidery fonts. They're called decorative stitch fonts. But within the stitch options, you actually have a maxi stitch, which is not included in that 4 fonts. So technically you get 5 fonts with it. So right here, you're going to see your maxi stitches. And this is just a large letter stitch right here. But if we come over here, you're going to see your different alphabet stitches. You have a script, a block, more of like a little, and just 2 different types of ones. If we go back up to our stitches in here, you're going to find exclusive stitches. We have ribbon stitches, and there's 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and triple ribbon stitches. You're going to find stacking stitches and floating stitches. And I'm going to demo all of those stitches for you so you can see what fun things you can do with this that are exclusive to the Pfaff brand. We're also going to have additional stitches. So these are going to be directional stitches, or if you've got a specialty foot, a yarn couching foot, a candle wicking foot, all of those are going to be in here. These are going to be your 4 directional sewing stitches. Let's come back up here, back out there. And then you have the option to save stitches. So if you created a phrase, or you had a quilt label that you just always wrote love and a name on it or something like that, you could program that in there, and then that way it's always there for you and you can easily access it to stitch it out. So let's come back over here. We're going to go back to our straight stitch here, right there. So we're back to our straight stitch. So let's talk about what you see on the screen here. This is one of my favorite things that this machine does, is this information that it gives you right up here. It's going to tell you what presser foot you should be using, and if you should have the IDT engaged. And then also there's another option here where it's going to have, it's going to look like a little piece of paper. So let me show you. Let's find a little decorative stitch here. So now you're going to see this icon, and it looks like a little piece of paper with a dog ear tag right there on the edge. So that means you need to have stabilizer. I love this option on the machine, that it's going to tell me what foot I should be using, if I need the IDT engaged, and if I need stabilizer. It's basically taken all the thought out of it for me, and I don't have to worry about anything. I can just look right there at the top and I know, hey, I need to have this foot. I need to have the IDT engaged, or whatever it may be. It's all right there on the screen. So if we come back over here, let's go back to our straight stitch right there. You have the option to, with a straight stitch, you obviously don't have a width with it, but you can move your needle position. There is 37 needle positions with this machine as well. So we can move it left, right, move it back to the center. You're going to notice that when it's white, you're back to the default setting, versus green. That means you've made an adjustment to it. You can adjust the length of it. So we can make it longer if you're needing a basting stitch, or we can make it a little bit more narrow. So when I'm piecing, sometimes I like to have a little bit more closer stitched together if it's smaller pieces. So you have that option too to adjust those as well. And then you have the option to adjust tension right here. It has automated tension with it. So what that means is it can tell how high that presser foot is. And as it's going over different thicknesses, so like that thick seam on denim, or if you have quilt pieces, quilt blocks together and you're quilting, when you get to those seams, it's going to be more layers of fabric. It's going to be thicker. So it can tell how high that presser foot is, and it's going to adjust that tension up and down as you go, but you can override it if you need to and make those adjustments just depending on what it is you're doing and the fabric. It really depends on the fabric and the thread you're using if you need to make any adjustments. But personally, I rarely ever have to make those adjustments. I just leave it to what the machine says. So that's going to be there. The heart up here is going to bring you to your personal stitches that you saved. And those were listed when we talked about the stitches here in the list of them. It was at the very end. Let's go back here. You have the option here to tie off at the beginning, tie off at the end, and cut as well. You have scissors here, but you can program it to cut when you tie off. So let me show you how that works. So we're going to tie off at the beginning, tie off at the end, and cut. So we're going to program all three of those in there, or you can just do one or the other. So I'm going to start sewing here, just doing my straight stitch. Let me zoom in just a little bit more for you. So we're going to start sewing here, and I've got my needle in the down position. Oh, and let me show you that one more time. So I'm going to touch my scissors because I want to show you that it's going to sort of stitch in place a little bit. So I'm going to lower my presser foot, and you're going to notice the needle is going to go up and down a little bit. See how it's going back and forth, and then it's going to start sewing. That locked in the stitch at the beginning, and then we're going to start sewing. So when we get to the end, we're going to push our tie off there, and notice it's going to tie off, and then it's automatically going to cut. So let me show you up here because I can't have both cameras going at once. So what I did when I got to the end, when I stopped, I touched this icon here, which is the same that you're going to see over here, the tie off at the end. And I didn't touch the scissor button that time. When I got done sewing, because I had this programmed, it automatically cut it. So let me show you that one more time here. So if we start sewing here, so it's doing that lock-in sort of back and forth a little bit, so you don't have to use your reverse button. And then it's going to start sewing forward. And then if we stop, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to touch this button right here, and only that button. So I'm going to touch that button, and I'm going to start sewing. And you're going to notice it does that little lock-in stitch, and it automatically goes into cutting my thread. I love that, so I can easily pull it out. If you are chain piecing, things like that, you don't want to have the tie off. You don't want to have the thread cutter, so you can turn all of that off as well. So let's come back over here. We're going to turn all of that off, and you can use the thread cutter as you want, or on the side as well, there's a thread cutter. So that's going to be those options there. Right here, you have the option to taper your stitches. So let's come back over here and choose a stitch. Let's just do a satin stitch so you can see what that looks like. So I have just a basic satin stitch here. I'm going to taper at the beginning and taper at the end. So it basically gives you that hard angle that you can make those adjustments there. And if you click and hold, so you're going to notice that some of the icons have a little triangle down at the bottom. So if we touch and hold right there with our stylus, it gives you the option to adjust those tapering. So it can go to a point, how you see up here. You can change the angle of it from 120 to 60 to 30 to 45, all those different angles you can adjust as well right there. And once you set it for that, it's going to automatically go to that one. And then you would just come back and you could change it back to that 45-degree angle or whatever it is you're wanting to do. This next icon here is going to be the stitch program, the stitch repeat program. So what that is if you are doing a bunch of the same quilt block, or you have a project where you're always going to have the same length of fabric or whatever it is you're working on, you can program in how many stitches you want it to do in that sequence. So if I'm doing a quilt block that's 3 by 3, and I know it's going to take, I'm just throwing out a number, 40 stitches to do that because I've done it once, you can then program that and save it so that you're always getting those same amount of stitches. So if I'm doing a bunch of the same size block, I'm sewing them together, I can just continue and keep doing that stitch repeat there. So this next icon here, that's what this one is here. This next icon here is going to be, let me show you this little guy here, because sometimes when I'm in the moment and I'm going through things, I sort of just will always have a brain fart every now and then. So if you touch the question mark right here, and when you see this, when you see the little icon right here with the question mark, if we touch something, single stitch program. So what this does is if I just want to stitch out one design once, so let's come back over here and we're going to choose, let me find something else to choose so you can see. Let's do this little flower right here. Say I only want to stitch out one of these flowers. I'm going to come back over here and we're going to touch this icon, the single stitch program. So it's only going to stitch out one of those at a time, and that's it. If you just needed one little flower on something to just add a little embellishment, you have that option there. Below that is where we have sequencing. So we'll go through that in a minute. And that is what sequencing is when you have a phrase or a name, or you want to do just a bunch of decorative stitches, different ones, and you only want one at a time as you go, you can program them in there. And then let's go back out of that. And then you have Stitch Creator right here. And we're going to go through this a little bit more in a moment. But I want to come back over here, and we are going to, let's go back over here to a straight stitch really quick, just so I've got a clean screen for you to look at. Up here, you're going to see the option for free motion. You have these different options to do free motion. So if you're doing free motion quilting or thread painting, anything like that, you have the different options here. There's a ruler foot, a Sensormatic free motion, a spring free motion, and then the dynamic spring foot, the 6 free motion one there. So you want to make sure you're selecting the free motion foot you're using, because your machine, when you're using a spring action foot versus a floating foot, your machine is going to act differently because you have on a spring foot or a floating foot. So you want to make sure you're telling it the right foot that you're using for the project that you're doing. So let's back out there. So let's go back, and I'm going to, let's just go into the sequencing right here. So when we open up the sequencing, we can have it cut, or not cut, I'm sorry. We can have it tie off at the very beginning. So let's program that tie off in there. Actually, I'm going to delete that because I want to show you how you can filter between and add new things. So let's come up here, and we're going to choose a decorative stitch. Let's choose that little flower we had. And then let's come back over here and let's add a phrase. So let's use this, just the first font right here. And let's do sewing. So you can have your capital letters, your lowercase letters, your different letters for different languages. And you do have some punctuation and numbers as well. So let's come back over here and let's do sewing. And then we're going to touch OK. And let's add in another shape at the end. So I want to find one where I can flip it to show you as well, something that's going to look okay here. Let's see. Leaves and flowers. Let's come back over here and look. We're just going to do this one. It's not going to look right when we do it, but you have the option to mirror it or flip it. So depending on how you're sewing on your fabric, you can actually adjust, not that one right here. You can adjust to have it go the other way. So we can have it go this way. Let's come back up here, and we can make all of our, but then that's going to make them backwards. That's not what we want, is it? But I just wanted to show you had that option there. You also have the option to flip it the other way. So if we flip it and flip it, now we would be facing the right way, but when we stitch it out, it's still not going to be. It's going to be G and I. It's going to be backwards. So let's turn that back around right there, and then we're going to turn our stitch around. If you need to sift between your stitches, so say I wanted to, let me come back up here. Say I wanted to go ahead and add in that tie off at the beginning. I can use my arrows here to adjust it, add it in that tie off right there. And then we're going to come back down, and say I want to go ahead and flip that flower back the other way. We're going to mirror it right here. Then we're going to add a tie off and the scissors as well. So then we're going to, you can add in a stop if you wanted to, but we're going to touch OK. And let's go ahead and stitch this out. So let me show you this one more time. It wants me to use the 2A foot, and I want to have stabilizer. So let's go ahead and switch our feet. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to switch the feet. They just snap on and off. So, and I just dropped that foot too. So here's my 2A foot. And there is a reason there's a difference between our feet. We need to disengage, or I already had it disengaged. We want to make sure our IDT is not engaged. There's not an opening on the 2A foot, so we're not going to use it for that one. We're going to snap it right on like that. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm just going to touch the start stop button right here versus using my my foot pedal. So we're going to go ahead and touch that. And it did that little tie off at the beginning, or the little lock-in stitch at the beginning there. It's going to do my little decorative flower here. And then it's going to go straight into my words, my sewing. And let me show you up here. As it goes from one stitch to the next, you're going to see it progressing on the screen as well, so you know where you are. So right now it's working on the W, because that's the first thing you see at the top of the list right there. So let's come back over here. The machine can also do 1,050 stitches per minute. So that's the speed. You can adjust the speed if you want as well. So let me show you this right here. It's going to be your speed adjust right here. If we touch and hold, you're going to see your different options for speed. So it did my little tie-in. And then it did my scissors and raised my presser foot up because I had programmed that in. So there's our little word sewing right there. And I think these fonts are actually pretty big for the size that they are. I mean, that's a pretty big size font right there. So that was how easy you could program in stitches there. Let's now go over to, and that's going to be this icon here, the sequencing, I'm sorry. Let's go over here now to Stitch Creator. So we are going to select all of this. So to select the entire thing, you see how it's all lit up. You just click and hold here, this icon. We're going to trash that. Let me back up just a little bit here. I'm going to stitch out one of these stitches first, just a single one of them. So let's do a couple of them so you can sort of see the difference, because I want to show you what you can do with the Stitch Creator. So we are going to go ahead and stitch out a couple of these flowers. I'm going to use my presser foot here. So this is just a single, it's not a running stitch or anything like that. It's just a single stitch. So there's 3 of those there. And we're going to tie off, touch our tie off button. And then I'm going to touch my scissor button because I didn't program it in to do that, which I could have. But so I have 3 flowers there. And that's just, again, just a single stitch. So if we come back over here to our Stitch Creator, there's that one stitch. If we touch this icon right here, this 3X, you noticed it made it a little bit bolder. You see that? So we're going to touch OK. And on the screen, it made it bolder also. So let me go ahead and stitch these guys right beside each other so you can see the difference. So let's stitch out 3 more of those. I'm just going to tap my foot pedal and it's going to start sewing. I don't have to reach behind to lower a presser foot or anything like that. So now it's going to be doing more of a running stitch or a triple stitch, which is the 3X right there. So you can take a lot of the stitches that are in there and make them more bold and defined. So I love that option as well. So I'm going to stitch out a couple of these because I want you to be able to see the difference one on top of the other, what they look like. So we're going to finish that one there and use our scissors. So now look at these stitches. Can you see the difference here? How much bolder and thicker these stitches are versus this one. So this would be just the triple stitch versus the single running stitch. But now let's take that. Let's come back over here to our screen and go back to our Stitch Creator. Let's actually move some of these points. I don't want to move all of them, so we're going to deselect. And each of the stitch points has a little green box. If you can't get to the one you want, you can use the arrows. So there's 31 total stitch points or nodes for this stitch. You can filter between them by using the arrows here. So let's go, we're just going to go to this point right here. Say we wanted to invert this flower. Let's do that. So we can take the stitches that are already in there. My finger touched something over here. Sorry about that. And we can make it, see, I can't, oh, what did I do? Shoot. Let's go ahead and trash that. There it is, it's still there. I can't get this, oh, I did get it touched right there. But we can change it just like that. So that flower that I just did, let's stitch it out like this. And you see it changed. So let's come back over here. We're going to stitch that out again. Just going to use my foot pedal, just tap down. So it took a pre-existing stitch and I made those adjustments to it. And it created a whole new stitch now. And I think I still had it programmed as a triple stitch because it's looking kind of bold under there. I thought I had deselected that. So let's stop there and cut. So there we go. Look at that. So these are all the same stitch, just altered within the Stitch Creator. So that is a neat feature. Another thing you can do within Stitch Creator. So let's go back over here. We're going to select everything. So touch and hold, and we're going to delete. You can actually create stitches. So let's touch this icon here. That basically gives you a stitch like each of these little boxes. And what you can do is you can make adjustments now. So let's make a little, this is impromptu right here, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and try and make a little tree because we are getting close to the holidays. So let's make a little tree right here. And it does take some finagling a little bit, and you have to sort of think about the process of how it's going to come back around when you get done with it. So let's create this little guy here. I'm just doing this on a whim. This is not what I planned to do. So hopefully it'll, and you can see it has a little bit of a grid, so you can make, you can try and get everything as close to where it was at on the grid as well. So let's just keep touching here. Oh, nope, this one right here. Looking at the wrong one. And we're just going to make our little tree right here. But you'll notice now, if I were to stitch this out, my finished stitch is right here. So it's basically going to jump down and layer my tree all together. So let me touch OK. And you know, that's not how we want it. That doesn't look like a tree, does it? So it's stitched on top of each other. So if we go back over here to the stitch creator, we actually need to create stitches for it to come back down. So we are going to just add in stitches again and add them right on top of the stitches we had already done. So it's basically following the same path. And if I wanted this to really look nice, I would, you know, go in here and finagle them a little bit more. You can use your little arrows here to adjust them, but I'm just doing this quickly on a whim. So it's not going to be too perfect. But so let's look at what that looks like now. Now we have that tree right there, and it looks like a tree, right? Let's come back up here. But say we want to add some space between our trees. We don't want them to be on top of each other. So we're going to add a couple stitches there. We're going to touch OK. And there we go. We've got a little bit more space between that. But we can always go back in there and delete certain points. So when you see a bigger green box like this one right here, that's the one that's selected, and we can delete it right there. We can also zoom in if we need to, or move things around. But let's add a couple more right here. I'm just going to add one more there. So let's go ahead and stitch our little tree out now. So it's going to be a red tree because I've got red on my needle right now. So, and look at how quickly I made my own stitch. So quick and easy. Just like that. So let's look at our little trees we just made. I just whipped that up on a whim there for y'all. So there are our trees. Isn't that neat? So really with Stitch Creator, the possibilities are endless when it comes to what you can do and what you can create. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. It does come with a knee lift, which is one of my favorite things. So if you're not using your foot pedal, you can always use the knee lift to raise your presser foot up as well. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything else. It has 24 accessories. So all of the basic sewing feet that you need, utility feet, has those. Some needles, bobbins, spool covers, lots of screwdriver, seam ripper, lint brush, things like that. Those are some of the accessories it comes with. So I think that's really it for those. Let's go into the exclusive sewing stitches that this machine has. So you have floating stitches, you have single, double, and triple ribbon stitches, and then you also have stacking stitches. So we're going to go through and stitch out a couple of these different types of stitches. So let's come back over here, and we're going to come to our stitch menu right here. We're going to select down here, and let's go over right here. Number 8 is our stitch techniques. So let's start with the floating stitch. These are going to be your floating stitch options here. So let's go ahead and just touch number 1. You can, again, make adjustments to this if you would like to. You can make it more narrow, or you can't make it any wider because it's already 9 millimeters. You can make it closer together. Another thing that you can do, if you notice here, you can toggle back and forth. When you see this little, it looks like a little ladder sort of, you can make your stitches more, you can take out some of the stitches so they're not as dense. So you notice that that stacking stitch got a little bit thinner, or this way, we can make it to where they're a little bit more prominent, and it has limitations. So once you hit there, I can't obviously make it any more bold, but let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to put this back to the original. Actually, let's go ahead and put this at the original, and I'm going to show you both differences. So we're going to come over here, and I've got a little bit of fabric. With this foot, let me show you here on the screen. It doesn't really tell you what foot. It has a foot with a little plus. So if we touch our question mark and then touch that foot, it's recommended presser foot. So for this, you're going to want to use this foot right here, and it comes with the machine in a little bag, and it has this little guide, this little flange in the middle, and that's what we're going to guide our fabric on. It wants us to use our IDT, and we should have stabilizer. So again, I didn't have to think about any of that or remember any of it. It's all right there on the screen for me. So here is my piece of fabric. I'm going to, let me back up a little bit so you can see here. I'm going to fold my fabric in half. Actually, I'm going to do a little bit more on this side so I can do a couple to show you. I'm going to fold it in half, and then we're going to place it on our stabilizer just like this. We're going to take our foot off and put that one that I just mentioned on. We're going to engage the IDT on the back. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the fold of our fabric up against the left side of this flange on the foot. So we're going to lower that. And when I do it this way, I like to push the button for lowering my presser foot here. And then if you push that one more time, so watch, I'm going to push that button one more time. It's going to rise up just a little bit so I can make those minor adjustments that I need to do left or right. And then I'm going to tap my foot pedal. We're going to place it down. We want our needle, when it's doing that straight stitch between stitches, to go basically along the fabric but not touching the fabric. So we're going to stitch out one of these here. And this is just the predetermined floating stitch. I didn't make any adjustments because I want to show you. Hopefully you'll be able to see a little bit of a difference when you make it more thick. You can do that as well. So I'm going to stitch out 3 of these stitches, and I'm going to stop there. And then what I'm going to do, I stopped and my needle's in the down position, so I'm not going to lose my spot. I'm going to come back up here, and then I'm going to make those adjustments to make it a little bit more bold and defined. So I'm going to come back over here, and we're going to stitch out a few more of those so you can sort of see the difference. So basically it's just giving you more stitches within that same space to give you a more defined floating stitch. So let's stitch out one more here. Oh, and see, this is what happens too sometimes on live TV. When you get really bold stitches, it may not progress it, and that's what happened there. So I'll show you what that looks like. So you always just want to make sure that your fabric is moving. When you added in more stitches, it does make it a little bit bulkier. And what happened, I'll show you here when I finish this one. Let's cut our scissors there. And this happens sometimes. So I'm actually kind of glad it happened live so that you can see. So it basically just didn't progress, and it was stitching on itself. So these first 3 stitches, I didn't make any adjustments to, and then these last ones are a little bit more bold. But then what we're going to do, whenever you are done doing your floating stitches, and that stitch that I have is along the edge, we're going to unfold our fabric and pull loosely our fabric out just like that. And that's going to give you, see this one right here, that one didn't work out right there. That's the one that I messed up, but I'll show you these 3. And then you can press, and it's going to get rid of that seam right there. That's why you want that straight stitch to be on the right side of your fold so that you don't see it in there. But there you go. And those are going to be some of your floating stitches. And you can get your iron and press those little lines out. They come out easily. So let's do a couple more of those. I'm going to show you one more. So let's come back up here. I keep dropping my stylus in my lap. So we're going to come back over here, and let's choose, I love these little stitches. This is a different type of floating stitch. So what we're going to do, I've got that one selected, and I'm not going to make any adjustments to it this time. We're going to come over here and lower our presser foot just a little bit to get it in place. And they're like little, I don't know what you want to call these, but they're like little rungs, little floating stitch rungs. And again, I'm along the edge without getting that straight stitch as it's going forward there. So we're going to stop there and cut. And then so these are what we have right here. I've got my stabilizer. When we pull that open, look at these stitches. Isn't that neat? And then when you iron it, those little seams will come out, but that's just from where we folded it. But isn't that neat? They're little floating stitches. You don't see the connecting stitch between them. So you're able to, and that's where the floating stitch name comes from. So let's go to doing switch back over here. Okay, so let's now go to one of our other exclusive stitches. So those are the floating stitches there. Let's go back up here and let's go to our stacking stitches. So you're going to notice we've got all of these options, but how you determine which ones go together is 1 and 2 go together, 3 and 4. The two side by side are what go together. And there's some different options down on here as well. This little mushroom, he's one of my favorites, so I'm going to stitch him out for you first, and because I've got my red thread in there. So we're going to choose number 11 first. We're not going to do both of these at once, obviously. And what we're going to do, we're going to have our line right here, but we need to have a starting point. So what we want to do, we're going to change our foot. Let's see what foot it tells us to use. It wants us to use the 2A foot, and we're not going to use the IDT, and it wants us to have stabilizer, which I have behind. I need to disengage the IDT, and to do that, it's easy. You just pull down and up like that. We're going to attach our presser foot for our thread behind. So what I'm going to do is I want to lower my needle into that cross point that I have. So I've got my straight line and then my horizontal line. I want to lower my needle right there to that starting point because I want to use that same starting point when I do the next part of this stitch. So what we're going to do here, let me zoom in just a little bit here. I'm just going to start sewing, and we're going to keep our line lined up right there. And it's going to do these little mushrooms. So let's stitch out a couple of these first. And then we're going to add some grass to it. So these are going to be your floating stitches. It's another one of the exclusive Pfaff stitches. Let's do a couple more of these mushrooms here. And then we'll add in our grass. So let's stop there. And we're going to use our scissors and cut. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my thread color really quick because, you know, grass can't be red. So let's add in a green, and I'm going to show you how to use the needle threader while we do that. So the threading is going to be like any other machine. Whenever you thread your machine, you want your presser foot to be up so that those tension discs are open. Once you get your thread through the take up lever and back down, you can lower your presser foot. And how that helps is now I can't pull my thread. I don't have all that slack. There's a little guide under here. It's hard for y'all to see, but I'm going to thread behind that guide. Now we're going to use our needle threader. We're going to pull our needle threader down, and it's going to swing forward. We're going to wrap our thread around right here and come underneath. There's a little prong that goes through the eye of the needle, and that basically it has a hook that goes down and forward. So we're getting that thread caught in that prong. So as I slowly raise my needle threader up, I'm going to let go of my tail here, and that prong has brought my loop through the needle, and there is our thread threaded just like that. So we're going to come back over here, and you remember that starting point. We want our needle to be in that starting point where we started our mushrooms a second ago. So I'm going to use my hand wheel, lower my needle down right into that point, and line it up right here. Oh, real quick, I haven't even changed my stitch yet. Hold on a second. I was going to start going again. So, and I seem to have lost my stylus again, so we're going to use our finger here. We're going to come back up here. So I did number 11. We're going to do number 12 now. And so now this is our grass. So got my grass programmed, and I'm going to again lower my needle down because it moved my needle for this stitch. It was in a different spot. Get it at that starting point. And now we're going to add the grass. And the reason we do the mushroom first is because we want the mushrooms to be behind the grass, and that running stitch between the mushrooms is going to be behind it as well. So let me get past this guy here. We're going to touch our scissors. Presser foot went up all on its own. And here is one of our floating stitches. So this is why we want to have that point marked so that when we start and stop, it's going to be at this, or when we start each of these stitches, it's going to be in the same spot. And with this one, it doesn't matter as much, but some of the other floating stitches, so let me show you one of the other floating stitches. It does matter because of how the berries or the leaves or whatever it may be line up. So let's come back over here, and we're going to come and let's choose, let's just do this one here. So since I have green in, I'm going to go ahead and do my leaves first, which is what it wants me to do. And I'm going to come back over here, and I'm just using a regular pen for you guys to see today, but you would use a heat away pen or water soluble pen. So we're going to lower our needle. I think I'm going to lose my thread actually. Hold on a second. Sorry, my tail's a little short. So let's rethread this here. So again, using my needle threader, I'm going to pull down. It's going to swing forward. We're going to loop around, and there's how we thread it. Very easy and quick. I really tell people to really practice using that needle threader because it is a great feature on our machines. It does take a little bit of practice to get the hang of it, but once you do, you can do it with your eyes closed. So let's stitch out our leaves first here. And I started at that cross point that I marked. So we're going to stitch out a couple of these. And when you're doing these stitches, so when we did the mushroom, it didn't do that sideways motion. You see how my fabric is, hopefully you can see my fabric is moving side to side. It just stayed along that line. It stayed within its stitch width, 9 millimeters. But these are actually a little bit wider. So your fabric is going to move side to side. So it helps to have these lines, and you always want to just keep those lines parallel with your foot, with your presser foot there. So let's finish this one here. And then we're going to cut. So here are my green leaves, just like that. There's our first one. Now let's change our thread back, and I have red again. So we're going to do red for our flowers. I'll change that up here really quick, because I think it really makes a difference when you can see the color change or the different color thread with the stitches. There's my little loop back there. Pull that forward and go underneath. So let's come back over here, and we're going to go back to our stitches. So we had originally selected one. We're now going to select number 2, and this is our flower. So let's come back over here, and we're going to lower our needle down into that cross point again, right there, keeping our red line on our presser foot lined up with the line we drew right there, and we're going to start sewing. And in a perfect world, these flowers will fall and they will stagger the leaves. So again, this is really the main reason why you want to have that cross point, that cross hatch marked, your start and stop. Because if I were to start this further up, my flowers would overlap on top of my leaves, and it wouldn't give you that stacking stitch. I mean, it would give you that stacking stitch effect. They would be stacked on top of each other. But this gives you that option of where they, the real look that you're looking for, where they stagger between each other and window each other. So let me do one more here. It's going to finish this stitch. And stop there, and we're going to touch our scissor button. And here we go. So there is one of our floating stitches, and you see how, again, they stagger each other, versus if I had started this further up because I didn't know where I had started, they would probably fall on top of each other and they wouldn't line up right. So these are the stacking stitches. These are some of my favorite stitches, this little mushroom one. If you are new to stacking stitches, I recommend doing one like the mushroom because you're not having that sideways motion movement, and it gives you a little bit more control to practice with first. So let's now go to ribbon stitches. Oh, there's my stylus. So we're going to come back here, and we're going to go back to our stitch techniques. We're going to go to ribbon, and we're going to just use one, just a basic single ribbon stitch first. So when you start doing ribbon stitches, and I've got, sorry, I got in your view there for a second. I have got some ribbon here. Just this is 1/8 ribbon is what I'm using. 1/8 right there. So when you start a ribbon stitch, you're actually going to let the machine start first. So, and when you do the ribbon stitches also, you want to use the start stop button because there are stops built in. So it's doing that little guy there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably get this, trying to think, it's going to go this way. So I think that's right. Yeah. So we want to angle it this way. I always get it backwards which way we want to angle it, but in your manual, it tells you which way to angle them. All of them are different from the single, double, and triple, so I just always get them mixed up. But we're going to place our ribbon right here underneath our foot up against the needle. We're going to press the start stop button, and it's going to cut over and do that there. I think I actually got this one right. So it's going to stop with, and you want to make sure your needle's in the down position when it stops. We're going to fold our ribbon over. You can raise your presser foot up one more if you need to, if it's hard to get that ribbon folded under. So we're just going to flip it over, line it up against our needle right there, and touch the start stop button again. It's going to tack down that ribbon and go over and do the little fancy one. and we're going to fold it back over again. So let me do a couple of these so you can see what it looks like with the effect. And we're going to fold this one back. Let's do one more here. And so this is a single ribbon stitch. If you have never done ribbon stitches before, I recommend starting with a single. Don't start with a triple. You just want to get the idea of the process. So we're going to cut there. And here, oh, right here, here's one of our single ribbon stitches. Isn't that really neat? You can just sew it right on, and you've got all of these fun little stitches on it as well. So let me show you what those look like. These are all going to be your single ribbon ones right here, these first 6. Then we're going to get into double. So let's do just a basic double stitch here, or double ribbon stitch. So I have that one selected. I'm going to come back over here. And it's really helpful to have lines on your fabric. So you want to use a heat away pen or a water soluble pen, because it really helps keep everything lined up as you're going and straight. Oh, my thread wasn't in right. So let's come back up here. And we're going to rethread that real quick. This is good visualization for you guys to see how the needle threader works and how easy it works. Oh, there's a little guide up in here that I want to make sure I get behind. There we go. We're going to thread right there, and there's our little loop. Got a long tail here. We're going to cut that down because I was already getting a little fray there. Did it pull through? Yep, hold on. Let's do that one more time. Here's my tail up here. Lower that. Come on. There it goes. There we go. So let's come up here, and we're going to reselect our stitch one more time. Okay. We're going to lower our presser foot, lining that line in the foot up with the line we have drawn, and we're going to touch the start stop button. It's going to stop there. We're going to take another piece of ribbon here. Let's do this black one I have. And we're going to line it up right here. And am I going that way? Yes, we're going this way. So we're going to angle it this way. We're going to press the start stop button. So because this is a double one, we want to make sure, we're going to do orange now. We're going to use two ribbons. So my first one is stabilized down there, and now we're going to place this one at a different angle that's going this way. Press our start stop button. So here's where people get confused. You would automatically think you should go back to your black, but we're actually going to go back to our orange this way. And now we're going to do our black. So you do each of them once. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do them twice. So I did my orange twice. Now I'm going to do my black twice. And let's go back to our orange. Just like that. And now we're going to do our orange again. When you fold it under, I'm not pulling it. I'm just laying it because if you pull it, they're going to end up like puckering your stitches a little bit. So let's do this one a couple more times, and then you can see what this looks like. And one here. And I'm just using my start stop every time on my machine. And we're going to use our scissors. And so there is a double ribbon stitch. So you can have your single, your double, and now y'all are going to challenge me, and I'm going to do a triple. I'm looking for my scissors really quick because I want to cut this. So let's come back up here, and we're going to choose a triple ribbon stitch. So 7 through 12 are going to be your double, and you can see they've got some different decorative stitches within them. I love this one. This is one of my favorites. This little one right here, it's a little guy going down. It looks like a little slide. He's one of my favorites. So let's do a triple. So depending on what size ribbon you have, you've got a smaller, medium, and a larger ribbon. We're just going to do that first one there. Let me cut this other ribbon here. And we're going to start again, line up our needle there, and we're going to just press start stop and let it stitch out our first one there. And this is the one where I'm like, which way do I go first? Let me go look at my example really quick to see which way. Okay, so we're going to place this first one at this angle. And then we're going to place our next one, ribbon number 2, at that same, is it the same? Nope, we're going to go this way. We're going to go backwards. So this starts out the same way we did our double ribbon stitch. And then this is where we're going to add in our third ribbon. What color did I use? And this one's going to add on right here. So now what we're going to do is we are going to fold over. So we're going to take our blue one up here first, fold that over. I'm trying to move my fingers out of the way. I need an extra hand. Now I've got my 2 over here. So I'm going to take my red, or not my red, I'm sorry, my orange. I'm looking at my red thread. Go down like that. Then we're going to take our black. So we're always taking the one that has 2 sides and the top one of that. So just like this, and it's just sort of braiding back and forth here. You do a couple more. I want y'all to be able to really see what it looks like. And back this way. So again, this is another one of the exclusive Pfaff stitches, the ribbon stitches that are available on your Pfaff Quilt Expression 720. All right, so let's stop there. You could keep going for days, but just so y'all can see. And there is our triple ribbon stitch. Let me see if I can get a little bit closer so you can see there. So you see it looks like a really pretty braid. This is our double and this is our single ribbon. So very cool in all different effects. So those are some of my favorite features. I mean, it was a lot of different favorite features. It's hard to select just one, but I hope you enjoyed learning about the Quilt Expression 720. It is, like I said, one of my favorite, and I'm not just biased because I'm a Pfaff educator. It really is one of my favorite sewing only machines. It's a great one to take with class. It's a great one for a beginner sewist that is wanting some of the higher end features, but without breaking the bank. It is at a great price. So if you're wanting to learn more about the Pfaff Quilt Expression 720, be sure to visit your friends at Rocky Mountain Sewing and Vacuum, and they would be happy to give you a demo and tell you more about the machine. So thank you so much.
Okay, we're back. And it is the 720 does not disappoint.
Never.
I love that machine. I mean, one of the things that people call a lot about, because we ship these all over the country. This is a machine we can sell all day long anywhere in the United States. And people a lot of times gravitate towards this machine because it's got that long throat space.
Yes.
Has a dual feed, has a pivot function, so the needle goes down, the foot comes up a little bit, then you can pivot. Has a color touch screen. You can create your own quilting stitches, like crazy quilt stitches.
Yep. And it's got the Pfaff exclusive stitches, which I use all the time.
A knee lift. It's a beautiful
So many
machine.
things.
Yeah. And the nice thing with this, and this is just kind of coincidentally, I ordered some non-special edition machines. So usually the Expression 720 and the 710 right now, if you were to buy them at most places around the country, they have the special edition. I have some non-special edition machines that I bought. I bought a couple pallets of these. They're just such a great price. You might be wondering, what is the difference between a special edition and a non-special edition? Well, I'm glad you asked. The special edition machines have a slightly different graphic on the front of it, and also come with 4 feet inside of it that the regular editions don't. But we have such a great special on the 720 and the 710 right now. You can see it right on our website, and we have an amazing bundle. You want to talk about the bundle?
Sure, let's do it. So the bundle that we have is a pretty good one for you guys. So one of the things that's going to be included with these machines is going to be, it's actually covered, the extension table. So the extension table, if you're working on quilting projects, if you have those bigger garments or anything that you just need a little bit of extra support, it really helps with. Along with the extension table, it's coming with the circular attachment. And Pfaff is really cool because on the circular attachment, you can do all sorts of different designs, but then they came out with more templates that do even more. Absolutely. The picture on there is very small, but you can do things like tulips and some of those fun shapes. So those are actually coming with the machine. And then we also have some of these quilter kits, which have all sorts of goodies in there. I believe, oh look, there's a thing on the back. There's a rotating cutting mat, a rotary tool, a ruler set, needle packages, and all sorts of things to just get you started. So great way to kind of increase your stash.
Yeah, we took hundreds of dollars off compared to the special edition, plus you get this bundle. We have special 6-month, up to 72 months, low interest and no interest financing available, and I can ship these anywhere in the country, and we have free shipping and no sales tax in most states right now, so that's pretty cool. If you have any questions about that, you can call me at this number down here. That comes directly to me. If you get a voicemail, please, or if I'm not available, leave a voicemail, please, because I'm sure my phone will be going crazy. These are an amazing price that once these are gone, by the way, they are gone forever. We're not going to get more of these. And so we got a big chunk of them. And if you're local, come see us at one of our 4 locations. Yeah, we'll make this machine sing for you. It's just an amazing machine. But while you're there, what are we doing in the stores?
In the stores, we are giving away a Brother NS 1850D sewing and embroidering combination machine, and we're actually going to be doing that at the end of this week.
Yep.
It's the last week already.
Can you
believe that?
It's gone by like
Oh my gosh.
Like that.
Yeah, thank you everybody for joining us, by
Yes.
the way. We've had so much fun over the last few weeks.
Yeah, got a lot of great feedback. So yeah, come see us, give us a call. I think you'd love this machine if you're looking for a great quilting, sewing only machine.
All right, and we will see you guys in the next few days.